All right, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Kaylee. Good evening, and welcome. My name is Greg Young. I'm the chair of the Northborough Conservation Commission, and this is the January meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission. This open meeting of the Northborough Conservation Commission is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Healy's executive order of March 29th, 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. All members of the Northborough Conservation Commission are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows the Northborough Conservation Commission to meet entirely remotely, so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the agenda. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Clark.
Here.
Todd Helwig.
Here.
John Johnson.
Here.
Kelly Marston.
Here.
Very good. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Vincent Vignali.
Here.
Haley Olson.
Here.
Very good, thank you. Some ground rules. For presenters and or applicants listed on the agenda, the chair will invite each speaker or applicant on the agenda by name to make a presentation and speak to their application. Participants will provide their full name and hold until the name is called. Each speaker will be asked to mute their phone or computer when not speaking and to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate meeting minutes. Those responding will be asked to wait until the floor is yielded to them by the chair. Speakers who wish to respond to the comments of others do so through the chair, taking care to identify themselves. Each vote taken by the commission will be conducted by a roll call vote. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. By phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Please note that part of your phone number will be visible to those viewing this meeting. By Zoom, click Raise Hand on the bottom of your screen and wait to be recognized. The chair will ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and addresses only. Once the chair has a list of all public commentators, the chair will call each by name and afford 3 minutes for any comments. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded and will be available for viewing via the Northborough Remote Meetings tab on the town's website. Kelly, you're up.
Okay, this meeting will include the following hearings pursuant to MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Northborough Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and/or the Northborough Stormwater Management and Land Disturbance Bylaw. Notice of intent and stormwater management and land disturbance permit application, 27 Belmont Street, Route 9, and 105 Lawrence Street, map 109, parcels 19, 20, and 23, owned by Om Shri Jagadamba LLC to replace the failed septic system for the hotel. The work is proposed within the riverfront area in the 100 wetland buffer zone. The work will alter more than 1 acre of land.
Very good. Thank you, Kelly. Okay, minutes. We have 2 sets to look at here, Vinny. We have November and December. November's minutes. Let's see, everybody was here. Dan. Yep, we have a quorum. We're ready. Can we vote accept John for November? So we need a motion to. Anybody have any questions or comments on November meeting minutes before we move forward? Will all look good. We need a motion to. No, I guess we a motion to accept.
Make that motion.
There a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Dan Clark.
Yes.
Todd Helwig.
Yes.
John Johnson. Sorry, John, never mind. Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. December's meeting minutes. Dan, you, I believe, need to recuse yourself from voting on these.
Yep, I wasn't there.
John, you're in though. So we need any questions or comments or concerns on December meeting minutes? Everything's good. Then we need a motion to accept.
So moved.
Through a second. Roll call. Todd Helwig.
Yes.
John Johnson.
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
And I vote yes. Meeting minutes are done. Okay. 329 Crawford Street, continuation. Let's see who we have here. I did see Vito's hand.
Yep.
Going to bring Vito in. There he is. Hey, Vito.
Hello, good evening.
Happy New Year.
Ah, you too.
All right, so continued from last month, 329 Crawford Street. I know that there were some comments that you were sent to Vinny.
Yep.
Vinny, are we all closed up with those? Any other
Yes, we
other
went.
open items?
We went back and forth a couple of times. He responded to all of my questions. He answered a lot of them and educated me, so that was good. And I think the plans are ready for your consideration for approval.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? We want to take a look at those, refresh memories, or?
I can bring them up. Just so you have them, just so they're there. Yep.
Yep.
So 329 is the southernmost lot, one on the left when you're looking at it.
Yep.
Yes, the one closest to Church Street.
No, I'm sorry. This 329 is the farthest to the right.
Yeah, furthest away.
Northernmost.
So
That's right.
yeah, furthest away. 317 is right here, and 311 is to the south, and then 305 is over.
Okay. This one has the very long driveway going up,
Yeah.
large home, and then it's like, I guess, 7 basins.
Yeah, it has that whole series of basins as you go down the hill, adjacent to the roadway. And then at the bottom, it had also a dry well with some trench drains right at the base.
Right. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, DPW's is signed off too with the process.
They reviewed it. I don't think they give the final sign off yet, but they reviewed it previously. And I think we've met everything that they asked for.
Okay. Good. Any questions, comments from the commission?
No questions.
Vinny, you're all set?
I am. It's going to be a lot of clearing, so we got a good contractor out there. He's going to be keeping busy. So, yeah, I think everything is as engineered and designed as we can get. Now we just have to get it implemented appropriately.
Right. And as Vito's well aware, he's been in front of us before with the same area. It's a very visible location.
Mm-hmm.
So any sort of issues are going to come right quickly, bubble up the top.
Yep, everybody drives by there every
There you
day.
go. Okay, let's see, any public comments or questions? I don't see any hands up. Okay, then we need a motion to close the hearing on 329 Crawford Street.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded by Kelly. Roll call. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Hearing is now closed. Vinny, any special conditions or?
No, I think we have the standard conditions, and those should they should address what we need on this site. We're going to have a pre-construction meeting just so that the contractor is well aware of this under a land disturbance permit. So I think we should be okay.
Good, okay. Then we need a motion to issue a stormwater management and land disturbance permit for 329 Crawford Street.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Kelly. Roll call. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. All right. Vito, any idea when that's going to start? You're going to wait for another couple of months, or?
I think it'll kick off this spring. I'm not sure. He wanted to get started, but I don't know how long it's going to take him to get building permits, and
Right.
I don't think they've done architectural's final ones anyway. So
Okay,
I'd say a few months at least.
fair enough. Well, I know that the next one on the agenda, Vinny, we'll come back to that. Let's skip over and come right to 305 Carver Street while we have Vito here.
Okay.
This is also a continuation. Again, same. This is the first one. This is the furthest one up. This is the one close to the Dory house.
Yep. Yeah, this is the other larger lot. I was just getting the plans ready. I can share the screen. So this one, 329, we were just looking at, was just north of us. This was where the existing house was that's now been torn down,
Right.
right
Right.
here. Yep, so this one has that long driveway leading up. It's similar to the 329 plan, except they had their existing curb cut down at the base of the driveway previously already there. So they were going to utilize that existing curb cut at the base. I think one of the key revisions that we did make after last meeting was, if I can get over there. There we go. It's right at the base. We did add a trench drain,
Mhm.
and we also added a dry well right in here. And it was talked about originally just doing, say, like an inch of runoff, but we ended up actually sizing it so it should contain the 2-year storm. So a little over 3 inches of rain. So most storms and most of that small flow really won't go out towards Crawford to get collected at this last point and go into that infiltration dry well.
All right, good.
Other than that, I think we kind of went through. There were a lot of comments, but I think we've cleaned up most of those with Vinny through that last couple of revisions in between the last meeting and this one. I don't know if you want me to go back through any of the design or anything like that, if anyone wants a refresher.
Vinny, are you good? You have any questions?
No, I'm good. I think what we did was there's currently about 100 feet worth of pavement
Mhm.
driveway that was coming out onto Crawford Street and
Mhm.
has been causing some runoff out into the street problems. So I think this construction will actually improve that because we're only going to have about 25 or 30 feet
Mhm.
going out into the street because it's going to get picked up by that trench drain. So I think that will be helpful. And the rest is just a long driveway that the property owner is going to have to maintain.
And that existing driveway gets chopped up as part of this, right?
Right. Yeah. So right now, and existing, it had this whole driveway with this loop all drained down to the front. So they're going to cut it off at the property line, and then the next lot will deal with the other pieces that are up there.
Okay. And again, DPW has seen this and has.
This one, I think, Vinny, I think you talked with them briefly, but they
Yeah.
haven't seen it as because they don't need a driveway permit since they already have an existing curb cut. So it kind of was different than the other 3 lots
Mhm.
this whole project.
Right. So I spoke with them and they were hoping for an improvement, and this trench drain is an improvement for them that they're pleased with.
Good, good. Commissioners, any questions from the commission, comments? Concerns? Let me check with the anybody in the audience. I don't see any hands up. Okay, and again, Vinny, standard T's and C's on this?
Yes, yep, as the standard conditions, standard land disturbance permit with an acknowledgement from the property owners and then a pre-construction meeting.
Okay, then we need a motion to close the hearing on 305 Crawford Street.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call vote, Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes, the hearing is closed. And we need a motion to issue a stormwater management and land disturbance permit for 305 Crawford Street.
So moved.
Second,
Roll call, Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston,
yes.
and I vote yes.
All right. Well, thank you.
Vito, thanks for working with us. Appreciate it.
No, it's been good. All right. All right. Well, have a nice rest of the night.
We'll see
Thank
you
you,
soon,
Vito.
I'm sure.
Thank you.
All right. So Vinny, we have also that 3711 Reservoir Street, the common driveway. And I believe that a request by the engineer to continue that.
Yes, the applicant requested a continuance till the February meeting, February 12th, 13th,
Yeah, 10th.
February 10th.
Have they been before the planning board yet?
Yes, once and they got some things to do there. So they're going to continue with us as well as work on things to resolve the issues with the planning board as well.
Okay.
Was there something in particular you're thinking of, or?
No, I just was curious, how much trouble he was in.
I don't think he's in that much over there because it's just for the common driveway.
Yeah.
It's not for the development of the lots or any A&R stuff. It's just the common driveway.
Okay.
Is there a way we should take a look at those planning board concerns?
I think we do. They deferred a lot of their comments. They were concerned about the drainage, and we're addressing that. We're reviewing that. They had some issues with tree removal or scenic road questions, and I think they're going to be addressing that as well. But I think the comments are on the planning board's website. You can see those and review them.
I didn't know if we should just top those off in February when we go for approval and note that they were corrected.
Well,
I hope he's going to be correcting them. So that's.
Right. But I
we'll
just
see
think
how it
that
all goes.
February, as a refresher, we just note that and just understand that those are the corrections.
Okay.
And Vinny, I looked at the minutes, the planning minutes around that, and there seemed to be a couple of items there where there's some jurisdictional questions about the planning board and the Conservation Commission, maybe a little bit of encroachment either way, but I think Laurie kind of straightened that out.
Yes, and there were some questions about issues that were not even on the property that's being discussed. There were a lot of questions about 363 Crawford, and so.
Which is the one with the house on it.
Right, and that's not the property being discussed in this. That separate property is going to have to get all the same permits as this when they have a plan of what they're proposing to do. But right now, they haven't even done any soil tests to see where they can put a septic system. So they haven't started that one yet, but it has to go through the whole process.
And if that one comes forward, that will have jurisdictional issues with us because it's right there.
Yes, we will. They will be required to file a notice of intent and a land disturbance permit because it's part of a common plan of development.
Just want to go back on something, Vinny, before we talk about voting this. The lots on Crawford Street. We've got 2 of them we've approved land disturbance permits on. There's 2 more pending. There's a lot of lumber coming down.
Yes.
Off those lots, and that's a pretty narrow street. I mean, it's probably not our concern, but I'm sure that's DPW police department. That's going to be just kind of a crazy period of time there. Logging trucks and graders and people coming bringing kids to school and.
Yes.
Jesus on trucks.
Yeah. So.
Yes, there's going to be a lot of activity, but it seems that they're not all coordinated, so that I think that that could be a good thing or a bad thing. I think they're all on different time frames to get things started and done, but if they end up not talking and have different operators out there at the same time, it could get kind of dicey. So I can make a note to I'll talk with Vito and try to get them to coordinate their activities if possible amongst the 3. We can't require it because they're separate owners, but just trying to coordinate the work would be nice, because there is a lot of tree removal and earthwork that's going to be going on up there.
And I would imagine the planning board will bring that same issue up.
Planning board doesn't. Oh, are we talking about, wait a minute, on Crawford, the Crawford Street lots or the Reservoir Street?
On Crawford Street, just the safety issue.
Yeah, no, the planning board doesn't have jurisdiction on that because those are A&R lots. Those lots have already been divided under approval not required subdivision regulations.
Okay.
So they don't have any jurisdiction. It's between Concom and the DPW.
Well, it's just an observation for me in terms of the safety issue. So
that's a good observation. It makes
Scott's
perfect
well aware
sense.
of it.
The line of sight on that road isn't very good either.
No, these are right around the corner. It's gonna be. I got a picture.
You go right around. There's a bend right there, and then it goes downhill too. So
yeah. Okay. So we need a motion to continue the hearing for stormwater management and land disturbance for 3, 7, and 11 Reservoir Street.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes,
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. Continued. They be ready next month, Vinny?
He said he is, yes.
Kelly, did you get a Diet Coke now? You're happier? Excellent. Okay, okay.
It was a great idea.
We have a new one, NOI, a notice of intent and a stormwater management and land disturbance permit application for 27 and Belmont Street and 105 Lawrence Street. Let me see,
Andrew
I know-
Steiner.
I did see some hands. Andrew Steiner, yes. Want to bring Andrew, want to bring you in?
And Jay Patel, if he wants to come in, put your hand up, otherwise.
Yeah, Jay, do you want to come in? If you do, I'll put your hand up. Otherwise, I will just bring in, yep.
All right.
Jay's hand is up. Okay. Haley, you beat me to the punch. Okay. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, how are
We
you?
can see you. We can hear you. We're okay.
Perfect.
Let's see. We're waiting for Jay, right? Jay, there's Jay. He didn't come in. Hey, Jay should be coming in any second now. Oh, Jay declined to be promoted. Okay, got it. All right. Andrew, you're all by yourself. So,
Run solo.
Vinny, let's set this one up.
Oh, that's, yes, I was coordinating with the Northborough Board of Health agent, and he asked about this property when they were just starting some construction a couple of months ago. And it was noted that they were within conservation jurisdiction. And so we notified Mr. Patel, and he was very responsive and held off on the work and said, stop all the machines, and did the filing. He contacted Bowler, I think, who was already on board, and he's gone through the paperwork and submitted all the applications. And I think now we're ready to hear the presentation.
Okay. Andrew, you're on. Do you want to share your screen with us?
Yes, if I have permission to do so. Is that showing up for everybody?
It's a little small, but it is showing up.
Let me see if this will help. It's
Yeah, it might be good for a big picture so you can see
Yeah, then we can
the
zoom
building.
in if we have to.
yeah, we can zoom in. So again, appreciate the time this evening. Again, my name's Andrew Steiner. I'm a professional engineer with Bowler. I'm here representing the applicant Jayesh Patel, and we're here seeking approval for the notice of intent and the associated land disturbance permit for this emergency septic repair. And this is for the existing hotel, which is currently a Motel 6, which has ultimately been closed down for the last several years. And this repair is a kind of key component in this site's redevelopment, which would have the hotel changing from a Motel 6 to a Spark by Hilton. For the purposes of the presentation, I'm going to keep it pretty high level, and that's kind of by design too, because it's just we're here for the septic repair portion of this.
Mhm.
But again, if I'm going too quick or if I've glossed over something, I'm happy to provide any additional detail or answer any questions at the end of the presentation. Prior to this meeting, we did receive a comment letter from Vinny, which we were able to provide responses to. And it's I don't want to speak for Mr. Vignali, but I believe prior to coming in this meeting, we've addressed all of those comments, prior to this presentation. So the site itself is comprised of 3 properties, 27 Belmont Street and 0 Belmont Street, which house the existing hotel. So those 2 have frontage again on Belmont. And then 105 Lawrence Street, which is where the septic repair would be located. Just for general reference, the site's about a half mile away from the existing Walmart as you're heading westernly down Route 9 towards the town line with Shrewsbury. The on-site resources consist of a perennial stream and BVW, which were originally flagged by Goddard Consulting back in 2019. And as part of this filing, we've had those resource areas redelineated back in October, and have included a revised wetland border report with the submission materials. This was alluded to, but ultimately the proposed leach field was approved by the Board of Health back in January of last year, and its placement was really, it was placed in such a way to try to help minimize the amount that we're actually impacting the resource areas. So if you look on the plan, this blue area here, that's essentially the riverfront impact, which is under the 5,000 square feet. It's about 4,150 square feet. And then this little bit of pink overlap that you see, that's the 100-foot buffer zone to the wetland, and that's about 660 square feet or so. As part of this, and I'm gonna make these pop up in red, there's kind of an existing dwelling on site, as long with kind of an existing shed. Those are going to be removed as part of this repair, which is ultimately going to reduce the amount of impervious area on site. I did want to mention that this shed does fall essentially on the line to the 25-foot no disturb zone. But again, there's no real foundation that's associated with this shed, and this has all been previously disturbed at one time. So the point is to really just kind of get in there and clean things up. We've also proposed what I'd say a pretty robust erosion control around the site, where essentially around the limit of work, we've proposed a 12-inch compost sock with silt fence backing. We also have compost sock around the front of the site, and a stabilized construction entrance for vehicles when they start working on the clearing and the area in the back here. So happy to provide more detail or answer any questions, but that's essentially the short of it.
Yeah, you're pretty far off. I mean, if I look, I think, aren't you like 80 feet from the wetlands? And
we are substantially far away.
Yeah.
I can pull the numbers exactly, but yeah, we're about 80 feet from the wetlands, and I think it was I want to say it was about 140 feet from the riverfront, but I'd have to pull that number again.
Okay. When you flagged the wetlands the second time, was there much of any difference between this one and the original one from 19?
Things were fairly consistent.
Okay, good. Any question from the commission?
I do have a question. So you said repair. So is this where the leach field is currently?
The current leach field's at the front of the site. On-site engineering is the one who did the septic design. There wasn't really ample room to do this substantial size of a leach field in the front. So this is why it was ultimately proposed in the back of the site.
And that's all that's wooded now? What does it look like now? Other than the
So
house
it's
there?
wooded, there's overgrowth, and then I said, like, again, there's an existing structure in there in red, which I believe the applicants discussed with the town before about wanting to remove that.
Yeah, Dan, that's an old abandoned structure, and it needed to be demolished anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But this was part of it, and I think their septic system in the front of the building was inadequate and failed, so that's why they needed to find a better place with more space to use this area at the top of the hill.
Is the tank there too, or is the tank somewhere else?
The tank is down by the buildings. There are a couple of big tanks and a pump.
Is that tank area getting removed?
The existing tanks are getting removed at the front of the site and being replaced with new tanks, as you can the rectangles that you see here. It is worth noting that we did do, I say we, but Jay did do several other testing locations kind of throughout the site, just trying to find a suitable spot. it was ultimately determined that the area in the back was kind of the best location for this septic field.
And to add on that shed that he mentioned, it's just a little beat up old shed, but it's in the 35-foot no structure zone. So they're taking it out and vegetating it again. So they're bringing the site into more compliance.
And you said that you've been in front of the Board of Health, Andrew?
This was approved back in January of last year.
Dan, you all set? Dan Clark?
Yeah, I am. Thank you.
Any more questions from the commission? Comments, concerns?
I have one.
So go ahead.
Greg, the restaurant next to this facility, the Casa Vallarta,
Mhm.
I believe that facility also has a septic issue. And that's one of the reasons why they were not able to reopen. If does this septic system have any impact on if the Casa Vallarta facility was to expand their septic system to take care of their current concerns? I know Andrew probably can't answer that question, but I'm just concerned, does this limit that piece of property into what expansion may be necessary for that facility?
Well, my 2 cents on that one, Vinny. Number one, there's no plan in front of us for the Mexican restaurant right now. Number
Yeah.
two, their septic system, I believe, is under the parking lot, right in toward the front
Okay.
of that building.
Right. And it's
Yeah.
a separate lot, so they don't have the right to be on this lot. I'm not sure that they could fit much more. They're for the motel site, they're squeezed in there. They don't have a lot of extra space. There was some discussion about extending the sewer down there, and that was going to be studied, but it turned out that the select board, I think, voted that down. I'm not sure the details of why or how, what was involved, but I had heard that there was a potential grant application and it was just denied. So that's when the Motel 6 folks, or Mr. Patel, I guess, moved forward with this on-site treatment option.
Okay, thank you for that, Vinny. Thanks for the update there.
Okay, I don't see any questions from attendees. Oh, there's one hand up. I'm sorry, I've got Paula's iPhone. Okay, let's see. And PRG. I'll bring you both in. Okay, Paula, you don't want to be a panelist. You want to talk, Paula? You can talk if you'd like to.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, so I'm the direct neighbor of 105 Lawrence Street. I've lived here for...
Could you tell us your name and address first, please?
Sure, it's Paula Guittard. I'm at 101 Lawrence in Northborough.
Thank you.
I've been a resident of Northborough for 19 years, lived next to that hotel for all of it. I'm concerned about I do know about the shed that you're talking about. It's been abandoned since I've lived here. I'm very, very concerned about how much privacy I'm going to have between that and the hotel. I am quite concerned about the history of this hotel and all the bad things that have happened. And I do not want to see light shining into my property. I know it's not a conservation question, but I did want to attend and express my deep concern with that. It would be horrible to have all that vegetation and then all I see is a parking lot and light shining in my residence. So I'm just wondering what would be, the plan of action for that, if any, at this time.
Do we have a chart or a scheme that would show her property as it stands up next to this one?
Yeah, it's on Andrew's plan. It's the northern portion right next to it, and the work does go right up to the property lines. There was planting discussed, and I think just as neighborly, I think they would be doing some planting, but I don't remember seeing it on the actual septic design. So if you can address that, Andrew.
So I believe that, I'm sure that Mr. Patel would be, happy to kind of coordinate that. I don't have that necessarily showed up on this plan in front of us.
All right, maybe we could speak with him in the future. I don't know how the channels would be for that, but maybe a privacy fence of some sort. We could be, discussing that. I'm not sure how that would pan out, but I'd be happy to be informed of that from the town.
Vinny, can you act as the pivot
Yeah,
point?
I can be
for that
a liaison or go-between or
Awesome.
referee, however it works out.
Thank you.
You all set, Paula?
I am, yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Okay, let's see, we've got PRG.
Is that Paula, PRG?
I don't think so.
Gutana?
Oh, that's my name is Paul Cotard.
Okay,
Oh.
yes, sir. Identify yourself with your address, please.
Paul Cotard, 101 Lawrence Street.
Okay, yes, sir. What can we do?
On the notice of intent on the Appendix B, our house was not shown in the locus map, which is just something I noticed. And then curious about, yeah, it would be great to see a plot plan of what's existing and what's proposed. So I just saw a little bit from Andrew, but I'm also concerned about a lot of the wildlife that we have on our property, turtles, ducks, newts. And I wonder if that's going to be disturbed by this work. As Paula said, it's not been a joyful relationship with the hotel.
Hmm.
And you can go with the instant reports and I can pick up the Hermaninos off my lawn from the past people. But hey, I get it. And I'm just curious, like the 100-foot line, because I know when my house was built brand new on that property that they had to do a lot of movement around my house to fit in that lot. How does that look compared to the proposed septic field? The septic field is very close to the property. And there has been no conversation about any kind of greenery or any kind of anything with our abutter. And so that's what my concerns are. If we want a good neighbor, we don't want to get away with commerce, but our life there has been a living hell in town of Northborough.
Well, I hope I understand some of the previous history of that location for sure, and I'm hoping that the fact that Hilton's involved in this would maybe clean things up quite a bit.
I hope so too. We've gone over, we've talked to the owner, I have his number. It's better than what's there now, but it's not been a good relationship. We moved away from in Framingham to Northborough to escape some of these challenges. And as you can tell, I'm pretty angry right now. But like I said, in the notice of intent on the locus map, Exhibit A, our house is not there. I don't know what that means.
Vinny, why would any idea of that how that would happen?
It was not included. I didn't see it. I knew there was a house there because I've pulled up. Actually, I can share my screen. I've got the assessor map that shows the house.
And I have my glasses on too. I want to make sure I'm not missing.
Yeah.
I can't see it.
Yeah, well, I get that.
Yeah.
So this is where we can you see my screen here?
I see it.
Oops. So down here is the existing motel.
There's
The
that
shed that's
building
being
that's
talked
coming
about.
down.
This has been removed.
Yeah.
And the lot where the septic system is going is up in this area here where the building is shown.
Right.
And this is your property, Mr. Is it Guitarno?
That's guitar. That's okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
So that's their lot. Their lot is made up of mostly a stream and wetlands, and he's got his house tucked right up in near in the corner, right up against the property line. And so he built up to the property line, and these people, the motel folks, are proposing to build up to the property line, which doesn't leave a lot of space for the activities that occur. So I think there was something about vegetating or a fence. If we can talk between the two property owners to make that happen, I think we could address the concerns, but it would have to be a commitment from the owner. Unfortunately, that's.
I'm sorry, Mr. Patel has raised his hand.
Oh, okay. That's the answer.
So I'm going to, Mr. Patel, you can speak, I believe.
So first and foremost, we are upgrading to the Hilton, which is the town town master plan was calling for the higher end hotel. And that's what we're proposing. Spark by Hilton is a brand new, totally new high-end customer base. So we will not have the same customer base that we have before as a Motel 6. That's what I wanted to add.
Okay, that's good news. Mr. Patel, you've heard some of the discussions here. Maybe there might be some, like, that's an opportunity for Vinny to pull together you and maybe some of these of the butters here about some sort of sound reduction fence or plantings or something like that to help block the view that they'd have.
We can do the planting. That's not an issue.
So, okay, well, good.
What's the traffic going to be like? Is there going to be a silt fence on our property? I mean, it's already a cut through street already. Those people ride by the street like crazy. What's going to be a disturbance to our quality of life?
So, just in terms of the plan that we shared earlier, you know, we have, again, kind of that erosion control barrier that's about a foot off the property line, so there wouldn't be any direct disturbance to your lot.
Okay. And how long is the project going to be for?
I'm not sure. I do know that they're probably hoping to start in the spring. So it'd probably be a spring into summer construction.
And I read the report. It's a very thorough report, and it said like saying that the wildlife there's nothing significant there. But like I said, there's tons of turtles that come on our property every year. We try to turn them around back towards the stream, but you know what they're doing. Late spring, summer, they're trying to migrate and do their thing. So I'm just curious about that. Has there been a study on the life of the streams?
Actually, there's no jurisdiction for the actual wildlife. There's the jurisdiction in that 100-foot and 200-foot riverfront and 100-foot buffer zone. So that in those areas, there's limitations, and they're not doing much impact within them. They're going in 20 feet or so. And for a project this size, that can be considered reasonable. I think what we have is a situation where they're doing the best they can to get an improved septic system, whereas a failed system and the activities that are in the back area that were unauthorized cause more harm to the environment. They've proposed their work now with no access coming in off of Lawrence Street straight into the construction of the septic system. So there's not going to be trucks going in and out next to your house.
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Everything's coming in down by the hotel.
Okay.
And they're accessing up the hill from that side. And there's going to be a fence all along the road and along your property line during construction. Then after construction, it sounds like the owner is willing to put up either landscaping, some plantings, or a fence or something. And I think we could work something out with that. But as far as doing something to prevent the impact to the critters,
yeah,
it's a difficult thing when there's development.
But I didn't know about the access to property, so that makes us feel a lot better. I just know from the past there's people actually cutting trees on my property to showcase the property over by the warehouse better, which I caught them cutting my cherries down. So I'm a big lover of nature and trees that have been there longer than I had been on that property. That used to be a Lawrence farm. So there's a lot of history about that street and all that and the property. So, but I feel a lot better what you just shared with me, Vincent, or Vinny. Sorry about that. Thank you.
You all set, sir?
Thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Paul, you still have your hand up. Are you all set?
Yeah.
I have another question.
No, I do have one more question. I know that this is directly from Mr. Patel. I know that if I can speak with him directly on this meeting, if not, it's fine. But he had mentioned about a vegetation. If the construction is going to be right up onto 105 Lawrence Street, I really don't think vegetation is going to cut the mustard. Again, we can speak through a liaison of someone through the town, but I'm really, really concerned with the privacy for my property and the resale value. If there's going to be construction, all those trees cut down and a cement or a parking lot put up, it's going to be an issue. So I just wanted to express my concern with that 100%. So thank you.
fair enough. And like you said, I think Mr. Patel seems open to working with you to find some sort of common ground if possible.
Perfect.
Vinny, does
Yes,
this not need planning board review at all?
none at all. No, this is just a septic repair. So
Okay, thank you.
there's no planning board review for anything. There may be something associated with the reconstruction of the motel when for the building permit, but that's not what's being proposed here. This is just for a septic repair.
Understood.
So they are planning on reconstructing the building.
Right, but it's an existing building and I'm not that familiar. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's triggering any requirement to go back before the planning board.
I would think if they, anyway, the point being is that these issues are best addressed. I would think they would be addressed by the planning board as part of their review of whatever comes next. It's not really us.
That is correct.
True. But at least we can give the planning board a heads up in terms of what they might expect down the road.
I can do that.
Okay. No more questions. Patel, you all set? You've got your hand up still. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to say.
We can put the fence if Paula wants the fence, I can put the fence, I just wanted to. The other gentleman was a Mother Nature, so I said I do the plant. If the fence makes sense, I'll do fence. It's one or the other. It doesn't matter to me.
So if you could contact me, Paula, and is it Paul?
Yeah.
Just let me know tomorrow. I think I emailed
It won't be a
something just a
parking lot.
little
It
while
will
ago.
be a septic. So it will be a grass, and we will maintain it. There won't be any other. We're not putting a paving on there. We're just putting a septic repair.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Patel.
You're welcome.
All right. Andrew, you set? Anything
All
else?
set.
Okay. Any further questions from the commission or comments, concerns? All right. All right, then we need to move ahead here, Vinny. Anything special with the NOI? Any special conditions?
No, just our standard condition that I have to inspect the erosion
Yep.
or sediment controls before any other work starts, and they're aware of that. It's been changed and added onto the plans. And then we're going to have a pre-construction meeting and an acknowledgement letter or acknowledgement form that the contractor is aware of all the conditions and the land disturbance permit.
What about that small shed coming down inside the 25?
They're just pulling it back and out, so I will be monitoring that as well.
Okay, so you'll know about that when it happens too.
Yes.
All right. And nothing special for the land disturbance permit, standard T's and C's and that.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, then we need a motion to close the hearing on 105 Lawrence and 27 Belmont Street.
So moved.
Second,
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes,
Kelly Marston.
yes.
I vote yes. The hearing is now closed. We need now a motion to issue an order of conditions and a stormwater management and land disturbance permit for 27 Belmont Street and 105 Lawrence Street with no special conditions, Vinny, correct?
Well, just the standard conditions, but
Standard
yes.
conditions.
So moved.
Second,
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
yes.
Kelly Marston.
yes.
And I vote yes. All right, Andrew. Thank you for your presentation. Thanks for working with Vinny.
Anytime. Appreciate the time this evening. Hope you all have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Patel.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. But I just realized I'm making your life quite easy doing most of the discussion about what the order is going to be. I should just let
You
take.
just realized that. It's been
No.
happening for like a year.
A lot of support there, Greg. That's what
I
you
see
got.
that. I see that. So I'm going to have to take the other approach now and the carrot,
What?
carrot and stick.
I figured that was part of your salary.
Well, my salary is all options. That's it. What's this White Cliffs thing they talk about? I don't know what that is.
We'll sell it to you.
All right.
Give it to 'em.
Okay, moving right along here. That is the end of the formal agenda, I think, Vinny. Or
The hearings, yes.
we have one COC.
Yes,
260
we do.
Whitney Street. That was going for a long time.
Yes, I was first contacted about this back in October, and I explained what was needed for an as-built plan and certification, because this goes and dates back to 1995. And the work was done in, I think, 2005. And luckily, the engineer is still around, James Tatro, and the owners contacted him, and he reviewed it and prepared an as-built plan and certification. Said that everything was built in substantial compliance with what was approved. And that's what I was looking for. And I recommend that we issue a COC for this.
Any questions from the commission? Okay, then we need to make a motion to issue a COC for 260 Whitney Street.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Kelly Marston.
Yes.
I vote yes. We finally get that one off the agenda, Vinny. All right.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
No violations report.
No.
So we have some informal discussions here. Adaptive bicycle trail, and that is Brian Belfer, I believe.
Yes, Brian's on.
Okay, Brian, bring him as a panelist.
I'll pull up the image while Brian's getting on board here.
Yep, should be any moment.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Brian, welcome.
Thanks. I think there's some new faces here who I might not have met before. Brian Belfer, 18 Tomahawk Drive. I'm chair of the Trails Committee and vice chair of the Open Space Committee.
Very good. So we talked about this once before, I think now, but this is more, you're actually looking for approval tonight. Is that correct?
I'm looking for, I think, informal approval because I have not actually laid specific GPX tracks down.
Okay.
It's been a couple months and I apologize. I got waylaid with some other projects, but primarily at the last meeting, we had talked about that we were looking to avoid parallel trails, particularly over near the Goldfinch Trail. And after I rewalked the site, I determined that I can't do anything with the Goldfinch Trail. It's too rocky, and that's just where it's going to live. And so I'm proposing a new trail, which is the straight red line. That's right there. And then an additional little switchback to get up the hillside right there. Right now, that's just a very steep straight up the fall line. So that's the overall goal of this. And I guess what I'm looking for. Yep.
Just to jump in, Brian, so people have an idea of where they are. So I'm going a little north.
Mm-hmm.
This is the senior center parking lot. You take the trails back in. There's one that goes off down the hill. That's the Goldfinch. And then there's the Summit Trail that goes up straight up the hill.
Yep.
And so that just so you know where you're at. So that's where down in the swampy area, down in this area here was where you're proposing to bring this new trail more up the hill.
It's not swampy there. There's a swampy area. No, the swampy area is downhill towards the railroad tracks. This is very much up on the hillside.
Oh, okay. All right. And so it's coming up here, and then they're adding this switchback on this trail. And are there any changes on this side being proposed?
Not as of this time.
And Brian, you're gonna pave it, is that correct?
No, absolutely not. This is a rake-in woods trail.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Because it's for disabled people and their transportation devices.
No, this is for adaptive mountain biking. So the town has created a paved ADA path down around the senior center. Yep. We already have a senior-friendly loop that goes around the senior center. And This trail work would be minor modifications of existing trails and creation of a new trail. The only difference is dealing with the grade a little bit better and adding switchbacks so that it's not straight up and down the hill. But, and generally speaking, all these trails, I mean, they're what we call rake-ins. We're removing leaves and small brush. We route around any healthy hardwoods. We route around anything that's an obstacle. It's very low impact on the terrain.
Okay.
A good quick question. I guess I'm still not clear. Are we abandoning the existing trails in place of these new trails?
It is super hard to abandon them completely because folks in the general public enjoy going straight up the hill. So really the best I can do is to offer better alternatives.
Yeah.
I certainly can put up trail closed sign or pointers towards this is the new trail, but a lot of those trails, especially the Summit Trail, they're so old and so worn in that it's not really feasible to close it. We can just offer a better and alternative path up.
Okay, I was just curious. I wasn't sure what the plan was.
I mean, I think I mentioned at a previous meeting, I'd love to be able to close it, but I've had people just walk right past barricades and walk past signage. And yeah, it's pretty hard when those trails are, I don't know, legacy trails, I would guess.
Yeah, the signs might be a good idea, but I'm not sure if that opens us up to some sort of liability issues, or if we don't put signs on all the trails that aren't being used or something. So
no, but we could do a climbing trail this way, with an arrow, or give it a new name, sort of thing.
Okay. Any questions from the commission? Any more questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Kelly.
It says adaptive trail. I know Greg had said so it's for people with disability, and you said it's not. What is adaptive about it?
So sorry, I misspoke when I said that. It is for people with disabilities. It's adaptive mountain biking is slightly different. It's not an ADA compliant trail. It is for people with disabilities, for folks who use different equipment out in the woods, primarily 3 or 4 wheeled bikes. And they just require a slightly wider tread width and slightly wider turns to be able to navigate through the woods.
Okay.
So it's mostly for mountain bikers.
Yes.
Okay.
But it's all hikeable as well.
Yeah.
Kelly, there is I did drop a few notes about adaptive stuff into the Dropbox, which I'm happy to forward over to you if or anyone else if you want to check out more of the details and the reasons.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So the goal is to expand the accessibility of that area.
Yeah.
It's prime for it, especially since the opening of the ADA path.
So once you get more of a concrete plan, you're going to come back again? Is that the plan?
Well, if I need to, I mean, I can go flag out exactly where it's going to go and folks can walk it. I'm not entirely sure what the exact next step is supposed to be.
Okay. Vinny, can you help us there?
I can. I think the next step would be if the commission is comfortable with the proposed having a proposed adaptive trail, then we get Brian or whoever it is to go out and flag it. I can then go walk it and make sure that everything looks okay. The commission, I'll let the commission know once that's done. The commission can then walk it, and then at our next meeting or a subsequent meeting, the commission either can discuss it, or if they have problems or concerns, they can address them through me. Brian's been great. He's just a tree falls and he's out there as it lands. So they're very responsive on the Trails Committee. So I think if there are any issues the commission has, I think we could get them addressed. I just need to I can be the center for the communication for that to happen. The only concern that I see is whether there's a concern on the Conservation Commission side of how many trails are too many trails. That's what I heard at the last meeting, that you had said you wanted to talk about a little, or think about a little, and then I just haven't heard that discussed tonight. So it seems like what they're proposing makes sense. It can be done, as long as the commission who manages the property is okay with it.
I guess and I don't have the agenda in front of me. Are we talking about the adaptive trail? Or are we talking about the proposed climbing trail extension? Are we talking about both?
It's a little bit of a misnomer. The project is to create an adaptive loop, which would utilize a bunch of existing trails. It would utilize some new switchbacks that would modify existing trails, and it would utilize one brand new proposed trail. So it's more of an adaptive trails project.
So that purple trail's already there, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. Yeah, I think I said last time, I mean, having parallel trails is, generally not a great idea because they go to the same place. But I understand it's hard to, even if you said it was closed, people would probably still walk on it anyway. So I don't know.
I mean, I struggle with this because it goes back to the banded trails on Mount Pisgah, right? And why can't you, like, just as easily as you have to remove logs and debris from the new trail, put logs and debris along the other old trail and say it's closed? Most people are not going to remove the logs.
If you conclude that we absolutely need to physically try to close the old trails, then we will. I think that there may be some users who do want to walk straight up the hill, and I wouldn't really want to necessarily take that away from them.
So you're really creating two parallel trails for two kinds of users, right? You're creating one for hikers, for better, and the other one is for the mountain bikers.
I'm not creating any hiking trails. Those are all there for decades and decades. What I'm trying to do is
I'm not trying to be argumentative, although I recognize that's what it's coming across as. By not closing the existing trail, that one is for bikers. The other one is for people on mountain bikes, and you're going to have both for both different trails for different users.
That is true. I don't necessarily think that that's a real big problem here. The trail density on this parcel is not, it's not heavily overbuilt with trails.
Well, what about this? What about we take Vinny's approach to this, which was mark off what you want to do. Let's go. Let's walk it. Vinny, you walk it first, then we'll walk it ourselves either that same month or the month after, whatever, to get the perspective of what you want to do. And also, you probably want to include in that a plan to not have two parallel trails.
So where do we have parallel trails now on this proposal?
You have two trails going to the same place.
Well, it's a hill, it's a summit. There's 4 trails that go to the summit already. Or at least 3. There's one from the senior center that goes straight up. There's one from Rice Ave that goes straight up. And then there's an offshoot from the base near the railroad tracks that goes straight up to the hill.
All right, but so there's more on the other side too, which I didn't realize.
I would call those parallel trails. I guess I'm not.
I guess I'm unclear on what the issue with the, I mean, it's a hill. It's got multiple trails going up it. And I'm looking to add ones that don't go straight up to the top.
The only issue I have with straight up the hills are the same ones you have, Brian, are the erosion and the wear and tear and the maintenance. So I think that's partly what I've heard from the commission is the concern about the impacts on the land. and having it scour out all the time. There's no real impacts to the wetlands on either end because it's so far in, but they're just more dangerous trails. It's not solid underfoot. And you, again, you're more familiar with it than I am about the impacts and negatives about eroded trails.
And
Well, and this is, go ahead.
I was going to say, I mean, we certainly can try to close some.
For me, it gets to what is the purpose of the parcel, right? Are we creating a theme park in the woods, or are we trying to preserve something else, whatever that other thing is? Like, I don't know that we need to make the world safe for adaptive bicycles.
Well, I would disagree. I think that the potential to get a massively underserved user group out into the woods on a parcel that needs very little work to make it happen is something that we should be jumping on, especially given, again, the progression of the accessibility around the senior center. Most of this is very minor stuff. We're not paving, we're not cutting trees down. Much of it, I would imagine, once the switchbacks are in, the existing trails that they cross would be gone in a season. They'd be leafed over and regrowing.
I mean, I'm sure there's a geometric term for this that I don't know, but where the parabola of the arcs come close to the existing trail, you're going to get cut throughs, right? And so therefore we've now degraded those areas.
Those are actually easier to close in short segments. If there's a very clear small switchback left and right, that's much easier to close than the giant summit trail that's been there forever. Smaller pieces are easier to block off.
No pun intended. I don't really wish to die on this hill, but that was the original concern that I had from looking at it. And it goes from sort of Pisgah issues from trails that arise out of nowhere on a regular basis.
I mean, I haven't seen a huge number of new trail creation being done at Pisgah. The committee spent some time last spring narrowing and closing some trails up there. So this is an ongoing, it's an ongoing thing. We're not ignoring that.
No, I know. I'm not, you're doing a great job. I'm not trying, I'm just wondering, exploring the options for the resource, right? It was actually made because I was up there over the weekend. There's up at the South View, says under video surveillance, and I saw the camera. Is that actually someone actually looking at that anymore? Do we know?
It's not currently active. It was at one point, but it hasn't been for a while. It's been on my list of things to address.
I mean, the deterrent factor alone is probably enough, but all right, that's enough. I'm done.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna move forward as far as Brian, you're gonna work out a path, mark it in the field, and then we'll take a walk.
Sounds good.
Okay. 432 Whitney Street.
This was, Brian has coordinated a cleanup, or has begun the coordination of the cleanup. He's gotten some commitment from the DPW for a dumpster. He's gotten permission for a burn pile and for brush and things, dumpster to get out a whole bunch of the barbed wire. And I don't have that image. Do you have that, Brian?
It was just a little spot of where I wanted to do some burning. But for background on this, so
Okay,
we're rotating over. We're leaving the Edmund Hill project, and this cleanup comes forth as, I guess, combined OSC and Trails effort. Just for history, I mean, Vinny already stated sort of what we want to do. I had brought up at a previous OSC meeting the fact that we went out there and it's kind of a mess. There's trash, there's pallets, there's a lot of brush, there's logs. It's not pristine, and it needs some cleanup. And I have volunteered myself to organize that and do as much of that as possible, utilizing volunteer labor so they're not burning the DPW, and utilizing, doing whatever we can with committee work, trails committee work, and our volunteers, again, in partnership with the DPW. And part of that was I wanted to find out if we could burn some of the brush on that property, which Chief Parenti has said yes. But I'm here to let you guys know that we want to clean the place up and to run that past, make sure everyone has the same info.
Well, interesting you brought this up. I was going to make some comments on this, and that we kind of touched on it in the previous topic of Edmund Hill, but do we really have to put trails every place in town? Do we have to have trails on this new piece of pristine wood, a clean property? Why can't it be left in its natural state? Why can't it be left for walking trails only?
So we don't have to put trails on every parcel. The utilization of the green spaces we have to make them publicly accessible so that folks can wander through the woods, I think, is an enormous asset to the town. 432 Whitney is particularly unappealing in its current state. It's not pristine. It's not horrible. It's not the northern part that we all know and love and hate. But it is not, it's not pristine woods. There's compost, there's trash, there's other things that should not be out there in the woods. And so we're looking to make it less unappealing. Now, as far as do we need to create trails everywhere? I mean, I'm a big fan of trails. Generally, I'm a fan of trails that are as low impact to the land as possible. I'm a fan of trails that offer proper grading and erosion control so that they're sustainable. Are they necessary? No, but I think you'd find that a lot of folks in town really value not only what we have, but the opportunity to get out and check out some of the newer spaces that we've bought.
This space, I'm very familiar with this space. It's very wet. It's not easily accessible for all those people from town. I mean, there's limited parking. You got to drive to get there. It's just not a great location in terms of public usage, in my opinion. But that's just where I'm coming from.
So to give a little background on this, I brought up the picture of the property. This is Whitney Street off to the left side. The railroad tracks are along the bottom of the picture, and they run down here, and they continue on into the back of the property.
Yep.
And this is the back of the property, the southernmost end. It goes over, and this abuts the DCR land. So you've got a big hill here, and then it goes up. There's one page here, then we go back to this, and there's a match line here. So that's where we were, was on down here. And then it goes up in this area. And this big swath area in the middle is all wetland. The green line is the wetland delineation. This is where the old trail used to go down, where the commissioners kind of wandered through there in the past. So they're very familiar with this property. This is the area at the front corner where they're talking about putting in some housing, affordable housing. So the access would come in off Whitney. You go past the housing and then have a parking area here. And then from there, you would go off into a trail. If there is, assuming there is going to be a trail, we'd go through this area along the old trail. It goes back up to the top of the hill, where top of the hill is up in this area here. Oh, keeps jumping. But in this area here. So there's not a lot of extensive trail work that's possible there, but I'm not sure what's being considered and what the options might be. So now is the time, I think, to talk about what we're trying to do, what the town is trying to do, both the Conservation Commission as the manager of the property and the trails and the open space as to being the users of the property. So I think the conversation is good, and I think we got the right people here.
The first part do the cleanup, which I don't, whatever happens to it, there's nothing wrong with that.
That makes sense.
Vinny, would you be able to point out on this map here where the debris is and where the burn would take place?
Oh, well, the burn is probably going to happen up in this corner. There's an access road that comes down off of Whitney Street, goes down towards the railroad tracks, and probably up in this area here
Okay.
would be the burn area. But that, I mean, I don't know that that's a big deal. There's enough space. It's safe. There's not a problem with that.
Yeah.
The concern, this is a 100-foot buffer line, this blue line. It's hard to see with all these other lines. It means there's a lot of contours. If you're not familiar with reading plans, all these lines mean it's 2-foot step down. So we're probably 25, 30 feet higher here than we are down in the wetlands.
Yeah, and
So-
as you know, Vinny, I'm right up the street from here. I know the property really well.
Oh, yep. Yep. And you're familiar with plans, so I'm not worried about you not being able to read. I'm just thinking for the public. But this would be the area where there's been some dumping in the past that got cleaned
Yeah.
up by the owner before the town acquired it. But there's still a lot of little trash and junk that they didn't sweep it like you were going to be walking. They got the big bulk items mostly out. And then there's all this back area here was used for cow pastures and animal pastures. So to keep the animals in check or in the property, they put barbed wire up. So there's a lot of barbed wire on this property, which can be dangerous. But the Trails Committee is committed to going out and clipping that off the trees and the fence posts and clearing it out and putting it into a dumpster with other trash that they find. So, I mean, what they're proposing to do is a lot of work. So I think we're really lucky to have that. So no matter what, like Todd said, it's a good thing to do. But I think while we're here, I think talking about the overall picture for this might be helpful. And see if there's some kind of a connection that goes off to the property is to the north directly here is a developed area. But further around the back, there is some more available space to connect to other open space that the DCR owns. So planning the trails on this really makes sense.
There's connectivity right to the Aqueduct Trail. And then again, there's
Yes.
potential, connectivity into the DCR parcel, which is actually a really nice upland pine area.
Yeah. And you really can't see that from here. Let me see if I can close this. Does anyone want to see this? I can close it up and go to the,
Just another point of fact, Benny, you know where it says slope easement here? All the way from there, all the way down, it's all fill. It's all fill that Santos brought in. Probably 30 feet of, no, I say fill, it's various, it's not dirt,
Organic.
it's various stuff.
It's
organic.
Santoville.
It's a
that
it's a
came in there.
compost highway.
And it's probably 20 feet high looking down onto the wetlands from some points.
yes, right in here. Yep.
Is there
Yeah,
still a trailer on there? I'm looking at the town's map geo.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
not.
That was removed. Brian, do you know if the bulldozer's been removed?
There was not one on the parcel last time I was there.
Okay, good. All right. I haven't been up there in months, so.
There's an opportunity for a nice trail sort of in between the railroad tracks and what we've been referring to as the compost highway to stay off of the highway. There's some new growth trees up there. I think the previous owner must have done an enormous amount of land clearing.
He did a lot of things, yes.
Yeah.
At one point in time, this was cleared all the way up to the top of the hill.
And this area here is a nice space. It's got a nice view going out to the northeast. So that I think that would be very good for the town. this is the back portion. I just changed sheets on the plan.
Yep.
So that the part we were looking at is up above here, but this is an area that goes up against the wetlands. But this area back here has some nice views going out because this is a really steep slope. You can see right out and over the pond and the wetland that's out there that the DCR owns. And this is actually, here's a little insert of the first plan is this rectangle up here with the northern portion. And then what we're looking at here is the southern portion. And then this is the actual property shape. If I'm not making you seasick with all the movement.
Yeah.
And you can see at the very southern end, you've got wetlands coming in. There's culverts that go under the highway, go across, and wetlands across there that tie into the wetlands all along the bottom.
So tonight we're just talking about the cleanup, right?
We are,
And
yes.
approval for that, okay. And, wow.
But I would, to be forthright, if the conclusion is that you're not going to allow any trails on the parcel, then I would retract all of my efforts to clean it, which is not really a way I would like to go, but I want to just say that out loud.
And that's
Well-
understandable. Like I said, it's a lot of work. So we don't want to waste the effort.
But echo what Brian said, I mean, it's having him saying, yeah, go ahead, go out and expend all this effort and do the burning and the collection, and then down the road say, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
No trails. I think that's part of the issue. I mean, I am hesitant to approve anything without seeing what it's going to look like.
I agree.
So I'd
Yeah,
like to see what
agree.
where the trails are going to go, what they're going to look like, and then we can talk about, do we want them there or not? And if we decide we want them there, and you want to go ahead with the clearing of it, fine. If we decide we don't want them there, you're not going to clear it, we move on. But I don't want to approve something I can't see.
Can we postpone this till it gets reviewed by the commission one more time by a walkthrough?
We can postpone this for as much as we want until
I
we
think-
get the right answers, in my view.
Yeah, I think we should do that now. I don't know if this winter season is the season to do the walkthrough, or if we should wait for the spring, but that's something I'd like to see.
The winter season would be the ideal time to do the cleanup of stuff,
Yeah,
especially if we can do some burning during the burn season.
And it's easier to get around because that grows in really thick. So trying to do a walkthrough without a trail in the summertime, I came back with a few ticks, and it's a pretty dense walk through there. Not that it's impossible, and it's actually nice. It's a beautiful spot. But if we're trying to make things efficient, I don't know, maybe Brian, you and I can talk about your plans, your thoughts of where future trails might be, and come up with like just a sketch of where trails might be. And then if I'm not sure whether it's just one or two that's an acceptable number, but how they kind of lay across the land, and the details of where the switchbacks or turns might be, I don't think really matter, but just the idea of how dense we'll have for trails, we could come up with just on paper, I think.
Oh, absolutely. We could sketch something out. We wouldn't be looking at anything more than really a perimeter trail on this, just because of where all the swampy areas and the
it's all
wetlands
wet,
are.
literally, yeah.
Okay, so I think that's going to help with the concerns, because there is an old road, an old trail that went right down through the middle of that swamp, and that is not the place where we should have a trail, which I don't think you'd want to do it because you wouldn't want to maintain it. But I think we want to put something on paper so we all get to an agreement of, okay, this is the idea of what we're acceptable, or what is acceptable, and what is going to be good and beneficial for the town. So I think we can do that, Brian.
Sounds good.
That work with the commission?
it does.
A lot of nodding heads. I can't see Todd or Dan. Are you nodding heads or not?
My
I'll
head is
close out my
nodding.
screen.
Yes, yes, my head is nodding.
Sorry.
Okay, very good. I can see that.
Todd, I don't know. I can't see him either. So
All right, so Brian, you know where we're coming from?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do think that, you know, when this was presented to the town for approval to purchase, it was not put up as just straight up preservation, right? It was mentioned, I think, that this would be a parcel that the public could access. And putting a trail in kind of is the only way to do that.
Well, we're the stewards of the property.
Mhm.
I don't believe it was a unanimous vote, the Conservation Commission to purchase. But we did, so we're here there. We will let's work together and see what comes out of this.
Sounds good.
It may be nothing, or it could be, as Todd so eloquently said, a trail Disney World or something, so. Which I doubt because there's not enough land there, but.
Like I said, theme park, but that's
Theme park.
okay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mount Everest.
Do we need to make a motion to postpone this until we do a
No.
walkthrough?
Nope,
Okay.
nope, we're just not gonna vote on anything. It's an informal discussion here, so.
Okay.
All right, so I guess we'll keep it as for, let's say we come back in February.
I'll have it on the agenda. I can put it on the agenda for February, and if Brian and I have trouble getting together,
Yeah, we
I
just
can
move
put
it.
it on for March, but
Will it still be informal discussion, or we're gonna have it something different? I guess it's
it
still
depends
informal.
on what we come up with. If it's something where Brian is ready with the Trails Committee to say, okay, this is where we want to put the trails.
Yep.
And we want 17 trails going across this, then we put that for a vote or put it in as more of a hearing, a request in the list for hearings. But if it's, okay, we heard you, we're going to put 1 or 2 trails in here, and these are where we think they're going to go, and we want to do an informal discussion, and
Fine,
that's where we would go.
fine,
I think we
Okay.
can work it
very
out.
good. Very good. Thank you, Brian.
Thanks. I'd like to hang out for the forest plan discussion if that's still on the agenda.
That's next, I think.
Edmund Hill, okay. Edmund Hill Forest Management Land Update and Implementation. Vinny, you did put out your update.
It did, so
And I did speak to you earlier today and asked the question about what's the difference between this and what was previously put out, and you said not a lot.
not a lot. I made the changes for the public hearing, the comments that I got back from the Trails Committee. They noticed a few things. And I deleted and said that everything is public. We're not trying to hide anything, so that everything is going to be worked through the public hearing process. I added in more of the issues relative to climate impacts, carbon sequestering, which are now the new buzzwords in forestry activities, and there's available funding for that. So we're going to try to update this, the 2 forest management plans, one for Mount Pisgah and one for Edmund Hill. And we get those updated. And then once those are updated, we then start implementing in Edmund Hill, and we do a harvest plan, and that would be prepared by a licensed forester to maintain and improve the conditions in Edmund Hill. A lot of the dead trees and then the invasive plant removal. So it's an extensive amount of work. We've got a lot of it under our belt already. The forest management plan has addressed a lot of it. So we're going to make some tweaks to that and then do some actual on-the-ground implementation is what the intent is.
The public outreach section, has that changed much at all, or is that the same?
That has not really changed that much, but
Okay.
we added like 1 or 2, I think 1 public meeting site walk out at the property with the forester to address concerns and questions and how and where it's all going to be done, because
There's one public meeting and there's 1 site walk.
yes, right. That's what's there.
Do we think 1 public meeting is gonna be enough? I just bring that up because we know with the response we received the first time through, there's a lot of the concerned parties in town. So I think that
Absolutely.
transparency is going to be critical, and maybe having more than 1 meeting if needed
I can put it in the contract and in the scope to have 2 meetings or
Maybe just
3
say
meetings.
2 meetings or meetings or something.
Okay, I can do it. That's great. Yeah.
Okay.
And I can, as we have discussions, that's why we're here. So we can edit the scope and
Yep.
review it and tweak it as we need.
Anything else? Brian, you comment on this one? Do you already input?
No, it kind of goes back to the original idea of the forest management plan. I mean, we've been sort of previously discussing, raking in a handful of 4-foot wide trails, and the forest management, when you enact it, you're talking about driving skidders and machinery, destroying huge chunks of a recreational forest. You're talking massively wide damage just from the machinery. So I just want to make sure that aspect is kept in mind as any of these plans move forward. The harvesting of the tree component comes at an enormous cost of destruction of the existing network and a ton of new gigantic 10-foot wide trails, which are generally unappealing.
So you're voting no, I take it on that.
I mean, I don't know what the vote is. I struggle with having been in forests in the area that have had loggers and skidders run through them, and the destruction it's there for decades and decades. And so I struggle with seeing how that could happen at Edmund Hill without massively changing the tone of the forest and the area.
Fair enough.
But it wouldn't the goal, I mean, we're not going to do this for we're not doing it to sell timber, right? We're doing it to improve the quality of the forest. If it doesn't do that, or if that's not what we're convinced it's what we're not going to do it.
And that's kind of where we went around a little bit in the last time. There were a lot of questions that were, well, how is it going to be? Where's the trail? Where's this? What's that? And we don't have that until we hire the professional who's going to draft it.
Yep.
And then at any point up to even when the machines are out there, we can pull them back. But the idea is we need to make some progress on the forest management plan to qualify that the state requires progress on each of those forest management plans. So that if we just sit on it for a while, I'm not sure what the state's going to do or how it all gets impacted, but they want activity every 20 years. And the forest management plan has been in place for 4. So I think we're all set with that. But the intent is for forest management to occur. And supposedly the forest management issues have been addressed. There's been discussions about climate impacts. There's a whole new discussion that occurred last year about revised methods and means of doing things. So that's why I think it'll be good that we get to use a licensed forester who's going to be certified in that process. I got a list from the state of climate certified licensed foresters, and we're going to pull off, or we're going to send a scope of services and request for proposals to those foresters. And hopefully we'll get good responses. Hopefully we'll get some responses, and then we'll get a good product with a lot of discussion, a lot of public hearings or public input. And then if we get a plan that looks horrendous or terrible, the commission can decide to pull the plug.
So a couple thoughts. I strongly disagree with Brian's sort of overall assessment of forest management, but we have sort of different viewpoints on that. It might be helpful in that contract, Vinny, to include, I know we offer a field trip to our property, but it might be even more helpful to offer or include as part of that cost a field trip to a recently harvested piece of property. I think to give people a chance to visualize what our forest management might look like. When you sort of discuss forest management, and I don't know what, Brian, I don't know what forest management you've seen.
Part of, I believe, Upton State Forest, or maybe it's the Warren Brook Conservation Area. I'm not sure exactly which parcel it was, but there was some pretty significant skidder operations going through there.
Yeah, and again, we can work all this out with the forester that we hire, but we can put equipment restrictions on there. So maybe we don't want to skid it out. Maybe we wanted all the wood to be forwarded out. You know, you have mechanized machinery that there are different ways to approach forest management depending on what you're trying to accomplish or what you're ultimately trying to get it to look like. So, but overall, I agree, because we've never really done any forest management on town land. I think education and transparency are the keys. And one sort of correction, Vinny, if we have equipment on the property, technically they own the trees at that point. So to have them pull out would be a real challenge. So we should make those decisions well before. I mean, we're essentially, the idea is that we're doing this at no cost to the town. But in order to do that, you sell the trees. And at some point, you know, the trees are owned by the logger that has paid you for them. So.
Good, thank you. Right.
I mean, you could pull out, it'd be a legal quagmire probably at that point.
Yeah, we don't want to do that. No, I just thought it was our property, but you're right. They own the trees once the contract is active.
The key now is to get somebody that can partner with us with all the concerns we have about transparency and good and bad and all those items here. So
yeah, finding the right forester is key. I also think finding the right logger, and we've learned this over the years at DCR, that there are really some quality loggers out there that understand your goals, understand your motivations, and are there to showcase how forest management can be beneficial. And it's finding those right loggers. In this case, I think would be important as well.
So I know when we first started talking about this, I told you I went through forest management with Westboro when Derek cleaned up around the reservoir out there. And it was a real learning experience how attached to the forest the residents were and how much public outreach had to happen. It was a really extensive project. Have you talked to Westboro about the ups and downs and protests and all?
Yes, there was. I got a long conversation with Derek and with, I think now the
Jerry,
DPW.
right?
Yes, yeah. And I also talked to the logger who was doing the work, and they were pleased with his work, so that we have like some logger name or some names of loggers who are doing a good job. The first step is to get the forester on board and make sure that this scope includes the necessary public education and outreach, which sounds, just from Greg's suggestion, I can beef that up a little bit more. And so that we know we're going to be paying the forester to do the presentations, answer the questions, be the technical expert, because obviously I'm not. So it's good. And I think it's the right process to do.
And locally, if people needed that field trip, you know, they could go to West, it's not that far. So they could go to Westboro and see how it's growing back in, and it's beautiful. But
where in Westboro is it?
It's up off Upton Road. It's around the reservoir out there.
Right. Okay. All right. And that's something I think Dan's idea of having a field trip to a location where it's been done well would ease a lot of fears, because my experience is somewhat similar to Brian's. It can get really ugly.
The pictures right after were ugly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
right.
But I mean,
yes, but we just got to make sure that it gets done right.
Brian, I'm sorry, if I could for 1 minute. Vinny, is there a study done at all with the wildlife in these forests and the impact it has when these skidders and equipment go through? what type of wildlife gets impacted?
These are more of the questions where I don't have the background. I'm sure there are loads of studies. I know, actually, we have 2 forestry majors here, so I'll leave it open to you too.
Yeah, I mean, certainly there's, I always try and tell people that if you're, again, in my professional life, I manage for habitats. You don't necessarily manage for individual species. So anything that you do will have some immediate impacts, beneficial impacts to some species and some negative impacts to other species. But there are things you can do to minimize that. So you could restrict harvest to a seasonal component. So if you do it during the winter when there's not much breeding going on, if that's one of your concerns is breeding birds, you could say, all right, we want a non-breeding season harvest and make restrictions on the time of the year that you do the harvest. Yeah, it's difficult to explain because whatever you do, and I'm not talking about forestry, but whatever activity or action you take is probably going to benefit something to the detriment of something else. So you really have to be clear on what your goals are, what your management goals are, what your forest management goals are. And if you know what your forest management goals are, then you can pretty easily tell which species are going to benefit from that. And which species, or I shouldn't say which species, which individuals might not have an immediate benefit or impact. I also want to say that I'm not disagreeing that right after an area is harvested, there are dramatic visual changes to the forest. The problem is that you start arguing about aesthetics. So what looks horrible to somebody might not look that bad to somebody else. So I guess I just want to clarify that how things look doesn't necessarily equal whether they're good or bad. It's just sort of a personal opinion on how, the visuals that change. Anyway, we're getting way too far. We can talk about all this at length.
It's near and dear to your heart, Dan.
I talk about this all the time. So this is something that is, yes, I've spent most of my career dealing with decisions like that and issues like this. So.
Okay, Vinny, funding. Do we still have funding for this?
Yes, because we didn't spend it the last time we did this go around. We never finalized the contract, but we have a new town administrator, and I'm going to work on getting a contract that is more tailored to a small project. So it's more something that a local or licensed forester can handle. They don't need to have all the $3 million in liability insurance for crypto encryption and transportation. I mean, they drive a pickup truck and they go to the site. So we don't need to get into a lot of the things that a standard contract that the town has with a big company is needed. So we're going to try to work something out so that it's going to be a realistic contract. It's kind of tailored to this type of work.
Good. Okay.
When do you need comments by, Vinny? I haven't had a chance to look at it yet.
In the next week or two would be good.
Okay.
Okay, good. That'll move on. Spotted lanternfly sighting.
Yes, we got a notice from the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources that there was an invasive species called the spotted lanternfly in the area. And it's been known, it's been up on our town's website for a couple of years that it's around. We actually got notification from DAR that it was found on conservation land over off of Southwest Cutoff. And so we got the notification that made us aware that we cannot move any materials or any items that might carry the bug, the eggs, the larvae, whatever it might be, off of the property, which isn't really a problem because it's an open space property.
Yep.
There are no trails, there's no access going in and out, so that shouldn't be a problem. And I talked with the DAR folks and they were happy about that. They also mentioned something about using pesticides on the property. And in my conversations, they said they don't intend to do that in this location. It was a single instance noting the presence of the bug, of the species. So they don't have any plans right now to do any more treatment or any pesticide applications, but they will let us know and let us know before they do the work if they need to.
And Vinny and I walked, well, quote unquote, walked the property last site visit. And it's located, if you're going down towards Northborough Shops, the set of lights there by the condos that are off to your left, you gotta go deep inside. It's behind the condos and behind the road that comes up by Smith Ponds, right down there, right on the edge there, that side. So they have access to get in there, I think, too.
Right, they can go in right at, is it Tomlin Road?
Tomlin Hill, I think it is.
Tomlin Hill, yes. So they can go in almost at the corner, just kind of before the corner as you're going from Heritage Lane north.
Did they give a time when they're gonna do it?
They're not doing anything. They just said they found it, they located it,
okay.
and they think they took care of whatever was there.
Yep.
So now we're just gonna wait and see this season. I'm not, again, another thing, I'm not familiar with how they deal with it during the winter. I think they just let things be and see what happens in the springtime. They didn't find any additional egg masses. So what they found and treated or just scraped and removed.
Yep.
So they think they're just going to monitor that area in the next year.
And the insect tends to hang around one specific tree.
Yes, it likes the tree of heaven, which is an invasive tree species. And so if people see those in their yards, just keep an eye out for this spotted lanternfly, because that's their preferred host species. They they're very selective. If there's one of those trees around, they will want to be on it.
Okay, thank you. That's what I have. That's it. Next month's meeting, what's coming up? Anything you know of? We got Reservoir Street continuation,
Yes,
if he's ready.
yes, and we may have something from the DPW for some culvert relining of some culverts over on Church Street and not Hudson, Howard.
Yep.
So they're working on pulling together a notice of intent for that.
And then there's something about the drainage off the fire station site.
Oh, yes, the fire station site where we had a land disturbance permit.
Yes.
They've been working with the Mass DOT, and the Mass DOT is questioning their drainage and wants to enlarge the pipe that goes from Route 20 out to Coldbrook. And so if they have to enlarge that pipe, and it will be discharging to the river and therefore require a notice of intent, as well as a revised land disturbance permit.
Okay, good. And then next month also, certainly we're going to see Brian again with either the adaptive bicycle trail. We'll hopefully walk it if it's ready too, and then plan for 432 Whitney Street.
Yes. Yep.
Anybody not going to be here next month, ahead of time? February 10th, Monday, February 10th.
No trip to a theme park, Todd?
No, I do have what was a fabulous vacation planned to Los Angeles, what I think is going to be moving to someplace else.
Oh, no.
But you're here next month?
I will be here for that, yes.
Okay, right, very good. Anybody have anything else?
No.
Just a quick question for, I guess, Vinny and Greg. So the MACC conference is March 1st.
March 1.
If we're interested, is that something that the town would cover the registration?
Yes.
Certainly.
Yes, you're right. We've done that for a few years, or actually since I've been here, they cover the cost for registration. And just as I was leaving work, I saw a notice come from MACC
Yeah. I
about
read
this
that.
annual conference. So I'm glad you said that, Dan. That's great. It's coming up. I think it's the first weekend in March,
March 1.
1st, yeah.
right? And so we need to get our list together to vote to spend the money at our next meeting. So I'll have to have that as an agenda item.
You need something from me? Just to,
We get a list. Yeah, they sent out
Yeah.
a list of the different conferences, the different trainings that they offer.
yeah,
And you can go for the whole day. Just pick out the ones you want and send me the ones you're interested, and I will get you registered if I get it before the next meeting. I
okay.
think that's what their time frame was.
And we'll vote on it for the February meeting.
Yes.
John Johnson, that's what I mentioned to you. You should think about looking at that agenda, see if you can catch some of those.
I just wrote it down. Yes.
Two things. Mia is speaking.
Oh, good.
That's something.
Our past.
So we should all try and
conservation
get into that one and give her questions she can't answer. And then if you have an opportunity to take a course by Scott Jackson.
Scott Jackson. Yeah.
Scott Jackson works for you. You know who he is, Dan?
Oh, yeah, I had him as a professor back
He
in.
was I've probably taken half a dozen seminars. He's terrific.
Fantastic.
He does.
Yep.
He's really good. So
Yep.
And it's open to the public, Brian, if you're interested.
it's at Holy Cross.
Except we don't pay for you.
See if I can get sponsorship from some other committee.
Just try a different pocket.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
That's probably the
all.
open space of the trails. That's me again. Okay.
If it's not that pocket, it's that pocket. There you go. We're fine. All right. Anything else?
No.
Sadie Stone is sworn in. She is the 7th member of the commission. Hopefully she is well, will make the next meeting. So Brian, not Brian, Vinny, we need to make sure that she watches the recording of this meeting.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. She's usually pretty good about that. She has talked to me and said she does watch them. She just is having some trouble getting in.
Riveting television. Okay, then we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Through a second.
Yeah.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Todd Helwig,
Yes.
John Johnson,
Yes.
Billy Marston,
Yes.
and I vote yes. I've got Brian Wood too. So there we go. So we are adjourned. Haley Olson, thank you for your technical support tonight.
No problem. Thanks